My name is Pete Folmer. I'm the Chief of Police of the City of Helena. On the morning of 11/13, Helena Police received a call from the Shelby County Department of Human Resources in regard to a child abuse or neglect investigation. Upon arrival at the hospital, this child had been taken to a local hospital. At the arrival at the hospital, doctors noted that the child was severely, chronically malnourished, dehydrated, suffering from acute respiratory distress, shock, hypothermia, hypothyroid, and that he was close to death. The child remains gravely ill at this time and faces a long and difficult recovery and an uncertain prognosis. All of us at the Helena Police Department keep him in our thoughts and prayers, and we ask that you do the same. After several hours of interviews, evidence collection, and many other tasks, investigators took the child's adoptive parents, Richard and Cynthia Kelly of Helena, into custody. And yesterday afternoon, warrants were obtained on them for aggravated child abuse. I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly thank Shelby County District Attorney Jill Lee, Assistant District Attorney Roger Hepburn, and all of the employees of the Shelby County District Attorney's Office for their assistance on this case. I'd like to publicly commend the Shelby County Department of Human Resources for their attention to detail and their tireless work on behalf of this child. And I would also like to say how proud I am of the Helena Police Department officers who have worked and will continue to work on this case for the foreseeable future. Investigator Sean Bozar, Crime Scene Sergeant Josh Lindsay, Officer Amanda Davis, Sergeant Michael Johnson, and Crime Scene Investigator Michael Nelson have all worked tirelessly on what for many of them is the most disturbing case that they have seen in their careers. The City of Helena, the Helena Police Department, and I am lucky to have them in the Helena Police Department. I will remind you all that this investigation is not complete and will not be for some time. Because of that, there are many questions that I cannot answer. I ask you to be understanding and patient with us on that. But after saying that, I'll open up the floor to a few questions.
Chief, you've been in law enforcement for about 20 years. Talk about, you said you're really passionate about this case. Talk about what it did for you just seeing this 14-year-old condition in his head.
You just struggle to wrap your head around it. I suppose that's the best thing I can say. Like most of the people here at the Helena Police Department, I'm a parent, and you just struggle to wrap your head around it.
Can you tell us if you've been able to talk to the boy?
At this time, we have not.
Is that because he's unable to speak this time?
I just don't want to subject him to anything at this point in time. I won't say whether or not I think he could or could not speak or whatever. I just there's a time and a place that's appropriate for everything, and I don't think the time and place has been appropriate as of this time.
Can you clear up? Okay, there's about who lives in that house, who doesn't live in that house.
Living in that home at the time that this took place were the two people who have been charged, the child that is our victim, and two other young adults, one of whom is a sibling, an adoptive sibling. The two people, the two young adults are not juveniles. They're employed. They're safe. There was no harm to them at all. They are not charged with any crime. They are, I think, 19 and 21.
Is there
So with only one's a sibling?
Only one is a sibling.
What's the other one?
An acquaintance, I suppose, would be the best way for me to classify that.
Can you tell us if it's the male or the female that's the sibling?
The unrelated person is a male. Melanie?
Is there a reason why they would not be charged having knowledge of this situation?
I won't get into what they did or did not know or what they may or may not have told us. But this particular statute in the state of Alabama requires that one of the elements of the crime is that the person who is believed to have committed the crime of aggravated child abuse be a responsible person as defined by Alabama law, which means they are the person who is responsible for the care of a child.
Any reports that those two had ever been abused in their past by the kids?
Not to my knowledge.
You know the Alabama code better than any of us. Talk about why is this charge aggravated child abuse and not something else? Because it seems from all you've said so far, this is pretty bad. It seems it should be more than child abuse.
Well, I'm not an attorney, but Alabama law provides for two classifications of child abuse. There is child abuse, which is a Class C felony, and aggravated child abuse, which is a Class B felony, which it falls in line with assault first, which is also a Class B felony. You know, other various, it's the second highest classification of crime in the state of Alabama. So, I mean, I know it may seem, the title of it may seem a little whatever, but it is the second highest classification of crime in the state.
Class B felony carries a sentence of what, 10 to 20?
I think the range of sentencing on that is 2 to 20.
Chief, what does it look like inside the house, specifically in that basement?
I'm not going to get into that investigative details of this at this time. We're not going to try this case in a court of public opinion or in the news media. And I don't want to say or do anything that would jeopardize legal proceedings going forward.
But can you confirm the age of 14 years and the weight of 55 pounds? Can you confirm that?
I will confirm that he was 14 years old and that he was severely malnourished and undersized. I'll be honest with you and tell you I don't know an exact weight, or I don't have it in front of me exactly.
Does 55, approximately 55 sound right?
I would say that based on my looking at him, yes, that would probably be somewhere in that range.
And I know you read some of the medical stuff and you're not a doctor, you can't diagnose, but kind of paint a picture of the condition when the officers got there. I don't know if you went to the scene, but what was it like when you guys went in there? Just what did you see? Help us visualize.
Again, Vinton, that falls into one of those things where I don't want to, for lack of a better term, dramatize this case any more than I absolutely can. I would just tell you he was and remains at this point gravely ill. Carol, did you have another question?
Neighbors have said, oh, well, we've seen him out cutting the lawn as late as 2 months ago. We thought he was 8 or 10, but he was out. Does that sound like that's accurate? I mean, was he in and out of the basement? Was he, do you have any idea at this point?
It is our belief that he spent an extended period of time in what I would term as kind of forced isolation as far as what neighbors may or may not have seen or what he may or may not have been doing. I don't know. I can't speak to the veracity of that.
And where does the investigation stand right now? I know you say it's far from being over, but are you guys done at the home and it's just a matter of talking and fact checking, or do you guys have to go physically do something else?
There's always stuff to physically do. There'll be subpoenas to be served. There'll be records to pour through. There's just a lot of things that will have to be done.
Now, the couple themselves, what do you know about, were they both employed, only one of them employed? And also, you talked about the number of people living in the residence. How many children did they have together, like biologically or adopted? They had 2 children, both adopted. And I say children, one of them is now an adult. As far as their employment, it's my understanding that Cynthia was not employed, and that Richard has historically been employed as something to do with computers, either IT or programming or something, but that he is now has been temporarily unemployed for a very short period of time.
Chief, 2 questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
The first, you said forced isolation. What does that
I'm just going to kind of let that speak for itself, and not without. I can't go into the great detail in what it would mean in this particular case, but isolation means isolated, and forced means kept there.
So when you say forced, are you saying like he was handcuffed?
I don't have any evidence that he was bodily restrained, or you said beaten. I don't have any we don't have any evidence that would substantiate that.
And then my second question, if I may, friends and family that knew that he was adopted, did folks know? And if so, how do you think that they were able to? Because I read an estimation of 2 years that you believe that he was in this isolation.
I won't say, I won't put a time period on it. I'll just say an extended period of time. And as far as what friends and family may or may not have known, that's part of what we will do going forward, is try to determine, what someone knew, not in the intention of charging anyone else, but just trying to determine how we got to this point. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, real estate records show that they've lived in Helena for the last 18 years. What kind of citizens have they been, as far as you know?
We don't. The police department doesn't have any records of ever having dealt with them on anything. As far as what kind of citizens they were, I really don't know.
Any indication that the victim is special needs prior to the injury or the neglect?
Yeah, and that's again one of those things I don't really want to get into. I would say that he was challenged in some way.
And Chief, if you would, you might have done this when you first started, but can you recap? We know you guys know they're foul, yeah. What did the officers go there for? Was there something from DHR first that you happened to find?
Yeah, we didn't understand. We didn't find this situation at his home. We responded to a local hospital once DHR notified us. That the hospital notified DHR upon his arrival. DHR notified the police department upon their arrival.
And you guys.
And we went from there. Right. We, based on a lot of interviews and evidence collection at the home, like I said, we believe that he was kept in isolation and denied basic medical care, nourishment, things that sustain life.
Are you angry?
I don't know that angry is exactly the word. Upset, frustrated, and mostly I just feel sorry for this young man.
Do we know if he was attending a local school or was he homeschooled?
It is our belief that he was homeschooled. That he was not enrolled in any of the Helena schools, and we believe that he had been homeschooled.
You know if the daughter had been homeschooled as well?
I believe so.
Now, just to go back to this real quick, because this is what so many people are asking about. I understand that legally nobody else is responsible for the victim except for the parents. But so many people are saying, is there not a moral obligation to tell what's going on? Is there?
And the only answer I can give you to that is the business of the police department, and in fact the criminal justice system as a whole, is legal obligations. What people's moral obligations are between them and their conscience, and them and their faith, and them and their family. As to whether or not there was a moral obligation there or whatever, I'll let people make their own determinations on that. That's all the time I got for questions today, y'all. I appreciate you coming. And again, I ask that you would keep this young man in your thoughts and prayers. We'll move forward with our investigation and do the very best we can for him. Thank you.